So we want to start pre-racing. So we want to know where you grew up. What kind of things were you into, hobby sports as a kid?
Yeah, so I was born in San Francisco, but grew up in like a suburb area by it. So that's pretty much where I grew up. I tried different sports when I was a kid. I tried soccer, didn't work out for me. I tried gymnastics, also was a no-go. My parents tried to get me into karate, did not work out either. And then when we went through like all of those, my dad was like, "Hey, like, want to try go-karting?" And then I just kind of stuck with that. And that was when I was 9, so I was still pretty young when I started that.
So you have a twin sister. Do you have any other siblings or just the one?
Yeah, so Annie's my twin sister, and then I have an older brother, Nick, and he lives out in California, and he's 10 years older, so he's quite a bit older. Yeah.
Cool.
Does he race too?
No, so like when we started racing was when he was 19 and like going off to college. So my dad never really got him into racing. He's still like he has like a passion for cars too and stuff anyways. But yeah, it's kind of funny that my dad got me and my sister in it, but not my brother.
Hey, that's cool though. So what started the passion for racing outside of your dad saying, let's try karting? What really made it grow to where you wanted to keep doing it?
Um, Honestly, like I just loved it immediately. When I first did my like first go-karting school, they called me hot shoe, so I got like a big head. I thought I was like so good, like the next big race car driver. So I thought I was like all that. So that probably helped a little bit too. But no, I just loved it. And then when I actually started racing, that humbled me pretty fast, and I was like, man, I'm not as good as I thought. So then that kind of brought out like the competitiveness in me to keep going and like trying to get better. So
So once you started racing and karting, were you aware of NASCAR and the different levels of the series, or is that something that kind of came a little bit later as you were working your way up the ladder?
I definitely knew what NASCAR was, but I was so unrealistic when I was a kid. Like I told myself I was going to drive Formula One, NASCAR, IndyCar, drag racing. Like in my head, I thought I could just go do it all, which is like so not realistic. So probably not until I was like 14/15 is when I kind of decided like, hey, like I kind of need to kind of pick what path I want to go down. And then I chose NASCAR.
Nice. And did you ever go to any races when you were a kid? Like Sonoma is up there in Northern California, or did you ever make it down there to Fontana or anything?
Yeah, so Sonoma is my home track. They have a go-kart track up there, and that's where it
Oh,
all
nice.
started. Yeah, so I used to like go to like just like the chill drag racing nights on Wednesdays, just like people bringing their street cars, and that was probably like the first race that I ever saw in like in person. So I used to do that with my dad and my sister, and then when like IndyCar came around, we used to go to that. My dad was never like a big NASCAR guy, so I never went to any NASCAR races until I was like, hey, I want to go to a NASCAR race. Always into like the IndyCar stuff.
Cool. So your sister, you said your brother went on to school and then your sister decided to go the college route. Why did you decide to say, hey, I'm going to continue racing? I'm good enough at it to where I can continue to grow this career. What made you stick with it?
Honestly, I'm just stubborn. That's like the easiest answer. I'm so stubborn. I was like, I've committed so much to it and I don't want to believe, like, I just don't want to go through my life thinking like, what if I stuck with it? I'm like, I rather try and fail, hopefully not fail, but rather try and fail than be wondering like the rest of my life, like, shoot, like I wish I kind of found out like, what if, so yeah, I'm just stubborn.
Yeah, I think if either of us had had that option instead of going to college, we became really good buddies in college. We probably would have taken that option too. So we don't knock that at all.
Heck yeah.
So what was next after karts? You were obviously successful there. You said, what was the next step up when you moved on from there?
Yeah, so the first cars that I tried were like open wheel formula type cars. I don't know exactly which types. That's kind of like the first cars, like actual race cars that I tried after go-karting. And then I liked them, but I wasn't sure if that's really what I wanted to do. And then my dad saw a USAC midget one day at a go-kart race, just like on display. And he was like, I want you to try this. And I was like, I don't know about that. Like it's an oval circuit. Like I've never done that before. So I was like a little skeptical, but you know, he got me and my sister cars and he's like, we're going to go race. And I was like, okay. And yeah, we caught on pretty fast to it. And then I kind of stuck with that. And then I saw my first late model race and I was like, Dad, I want to like go race late models and stock cars. And he was just like, shoot, I mean, so that's kind of how that went down.
So which of you liked more? You've kind of raced in most of the series leading up before these big ones. Which of you liked the best so far?
I feel like, if I were to get in like a midget, that's where I kind of feel at home. And I feel like my driving style kind of like still goes back to that. Like even in the stock car, like I have them like set up my seat like super like straight up so I can kind of feel like I'm sitting in my midget and I look kind of crazy. But yeah, so I think I still have like habits from like the midget racing and just like open wheel racing. But I'm definitely like, I love like the stock cars and just like how close you can like get to other competitors. You can just like beat and bang on each other's doors and I don't know. I think I'm starting to lean more towards that way, but I still always will love the open wheel cars.
For sure.
Nice. So you're the all-time winningest female in USAC with 19 wins. You're also the first Arab American in NASCAR. So what did these type of accolades mean to you?
It's definitely exciting. I mean, both of those, like I wasn't like keeping track, like, oh, like if I get 19 wins, I'm gonna have the most wins out of any female, or like I'm gonna be the first like female Arab in NASCAR. Like I never really knew that was a thing until it was kind of like shown to me. It's not something like I kind of like went out to go do. Like for me, I just go out to go win races and have fun and try to move up through the ladder system. But it is cool that I kind of achieved these along the way.
Yeah, for sure. And NASCAR is doing a lot when it comes to inclusion and diversity. We had Jesse Awuji, one of the African American drivers last week, and we asked him sort of the same question. Do you think they're doing enough? NASCAR is doing enough, especially for women, to enter the sport and compete in all levels of NASCAR?
Yeah, I think NASCAR is like becoming more progressive, and I am seeing more girls like going up through the ranks. And I think it's just like about kind of like welcoming everybody with like open arms and kind of making everybody feel like included. Because I know for some people, if they don't see like too many people that are familiar to them, then it makes them like uncomfortable. And it's hard to not feel that way and to like be confident, especially if you're young. Like naturally, like you don't have a lot of confidence when you're younger. So if you're looking around, it's like, hey, like I'm kind of the only person here. If you're kind of left out, it's kind of hard to be like that. So I think it's important just to make like your voice heard. And that's why I try to like use my social media and show like, hey, like I'm doing this. I'm not making a big deal of being a female, but it's obviously I am a female. So yeah, just kind of like using like your voice and like your platform to make everybody feel welcome.
Yeah. And you've also been an advocate for the Women's Sports Foundation. Can you tell us a little bit about what this organization does?
Yeah, so they help pretty much female athletes kind of like pursue whatever sport they want to pursue and help fund that. So it's a definitely really amazing organization. I'm so glad that I got hooked up with them. They're really good. I can't say enough good things about them for sure.
Nice. So do you have good relationships with other female drivers like Gracie Trotter, Natalie Decker, Haley Deegan, or are they just like competitors to you?
I actually just saw Haley yesterday. We filmed a YouTube video at GoPro.
Nice.
So I was racing with her yesterday, and then like she needed some stuff for her merch, so I gave her some stuff. Like at midnight, she rolled up, and I was like, "Hey, yeah, like I have some stuff for you." So yeah, definitely try to be like friendly with everybody. I think it's kind of like stupid when people like try to pitch like girls against each other. I mean, like we're all in this, we're all drivers, and we have like a lot in common, just like being in racing, but we're all very different at the same time. But yeah, I try to be friends with everybody.
And did I read correctly that you were actually teammates with Haley at one time?
So me and Haley never raced against each other, but we did some stuff with like TRD like a couple times. The first time that I ever drove a late model or a pro late model was in like her race car. So I met her like a while back, and then I was teammates with Natalie Decker when I did my ARCA debut in like I think it was like 2018.
Cool. So was there anybody during that time that you looked up to, not specifically a female or anything? Is there a driver that you look at and you're like, man, I really want to be like them? Anybody that stands out, whether it be in Formula One or in NASCAR?
I think definitely like my favorite driver, he's not in NASCAR anymore, but Jimmy Johnson was always like when I looked at. I feel like that's such like an easy answer because like he's achieved so much. So
That's
even
okay. I'm a Jimmy Johnson fan too.
yeah, to even just like achieve like half of like what he's done would be like so crazy to me, and just like I would love to like talk to him and just like pick his brain about everything and just be so annoying and ask a million questions.
I'm sure you'll get there one day. So a young driver has a ton of responsibilities. We've talked to folks like Kaz Gralla. We've seen how Jesse comes up in things. You have to balance not only the training and learning the different cars that you're moving up in, but you're also managing a brand big time. I mean, you talked about taping a YouTube video with Haley, and we see you very active on social media. How do you balance all of that stuff as you're trying to move up the ranks?
Yeah, I think branding is definitely really important. And there's definitely a balance to it because you don't want to be out there like taking pictures and then people are like, oh, are you a model or race car driver? I've gotten that so many times. And it's like, it's hard to like not come off that way because people don't really understand like how much like social media really does help and how much that comes into play with getting sponsorship now, just the way times are. So there's definitely a balance. And I think like, if I'm not really doing anything, I try not to just like post like too much like random stuff or just like, I'm trying to like ask for like too much attention when I'm not really doing anything. So I try to keep my stuff like racing related, or if I'm training or like sometimes like little like personal stuff too. But for the most part, I try to keep most of my stuff just like racing related.
Yeah, there you go. I don't think it's bad to do it either way. Personally, if I look good enough, I'd go as a model and a podcaster if I could.
You
But
could be a beard model, maybe.
Oh yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's what I could. They cut the bad part off. So, what of that though? When you're doing that balance, what's the hardest part been for you? Is it learning as you're moving up in the cars, or has it been the balance of acquiring sponsorship and balancing, kind of the personal aspect of the business side of things?
I definitely think sponsorship's the hardest part. I think that's harder than driving just because you can't, you obviously like need proper funding to get into like the right equipment and to even get like seat time to get better. It's just kind of like this like vicious cycle. If you don't have funding, you can't go test, go get better or get in good equipment. So I definitely think sponsorship comes into play a lot. But it's important, to like make connections with other people in the sport because connections take you really far too. So yeah, but I definitely think sponsorship is like probably, I hate saying that, but it is probably like the most important thing in the sport.
For sure. And how much does something, I mean, we mentioned at the beginning of the show, we saw you on Ellen. How much does something like that help out when she invites you on, and what's an experience like that like?
It definitely helps, especially with her. She's as big as she is, and it helps get me like exposure to like share my story, and get in front of people that probably like typically wouldn't even know who I am. So it definitely helps for sure. And it was a crazy experience. I'm like, I thought it was a prank when somebody called that they wanted me on. I was like, I don't know. And then I did like a pre-interview at first, and I was like, I didn't think I was gonna get it. I thought they're just talking to me for fun. And then they're like, oh yeah, like she wants you. And I was like, okay. And I had a flight to catch. And they're like, no, she wants you like now, tomorrow. I was like, okay, like sure, I'm not gonna say no to Ellen. So
That's awesome.
Anything for Ellen.
right,
So
literally anything. She made me like this coolest like bumper sticker. I'm gonna have my
Yeah.
drawn for Phoenix. Yeah, it's pretty fun.
oh, you're gonna put it on your car?
Yeah.
Nice.
I was like, I don't know if I want to hang it or if I want it on the car. I'm like, I think I kind of want it on the car. Just like a slight flex.
Yeah,
Or maybe
yeah.
you can get the bumper up from the car and hang that after
yes.
the race.
Yes. Good idea.
So Daytona, the ARCA race, was that your first time in a super speedway?
Yeah, that was my first time on super speedway.
Can you describe to us like the learning curve from going from short tracks to a super speedway with drafting? Like how different is it?
It's honestly so different. And I asked my team like a lot of questions before going on the track. And I really tried to just get as much knowledge as possible before actually doing it. And then I also went on iRacing. So I did like everything that I could do to prepare. But honestly, like nothing like really like, you don't get the actual feeling until you're actually doing it. And it's like crazy. And it's like, oh my gosh, like my first time in like an actual like pack was in the race. And I was like, oh my God, the car is so different. And I was like, I want to ask my guys questions, but also like want to focus. So yeah, it's definitely an experience for sure.
So what sort of advice did they give you?
Stay on the yellow line and stay out of qualification. That's pretty much all I heard, for the most part, which I mean, it's smart, especially as like a rookie. I just wanted to finish the race and get all the laps in.
So you hear people like, or Dale Earnhardt, I think was, and some other drivers, they talk about how they can see the air.
Mm-hmm.
Is that real?
I've heard that before. I didn't see it. My dad was like, can you see the air? They say they can see the air. I'm like, I don't know. And yeah, I didn't see the air, but I mean, maybe when you do it enough times, you could kind of see it or kind of like predict what's going to happen. But I mean, like aerodynamics is like so huge. It's crazy.
What about like when you're in the car and you're in the pack, what about, can you like feel like the air like bumping like sideways and front when you're like in two lines?
Yeah, you can definitely hear, I mean, you can definitely feel like the air moving the car around. The car changes a lot. It's like it's like someone just changed the setup of the car on you. It's crazy how much it changes. And also like the sound of like the engine changes a little bit too, which is something my team told me about, and it's true.
Nice.
That-
So go ahead, Chris.
Oh no, you're good, Bart. Go.
So once you finished, did you complete all the goals you were looking to do there?
Yeah, so I wanted to get a top 20. I wanted to stay out of trouble and finish all the laps and finish on the lead lap. I was like annoyed with myself at the end though, because I did make my way up to 10th and I just like made this little mistake and I lost the draft. And then like everybody behind me like bailed, obviously, because I lost the draft. And yeah, so then I literally just like fell back like a rock and I was like, shoot. So I was annoyed about that. But I did like hit all my goals too. So I was like, okay, cool. Like I made a mistake, but I still reached all my goals.
Nice. And being in a wreck at Daytona looks very, very like intense. Was there any anxiety around that?
Honestly, like I just didn't want to be the one to like cause the big one. I just didn't want to be like that person, but not like in a way of, like me getting hurt. I just didn't want to be that person to cause a big wreck.
For sure.
And so you're also in the truck series part-time with Young's Motorsport this year. What races will we see you?
So we haven't yet announced it. But I think we'll probably announce it soon. Yeah. I wish I
Okay,
could
good
tell
deal.
you.
But soon, right?
Yes, soon.
Nice.
Awesome. Good. Yeah, we don't expect you to give us any breaking news.
And do you have any just short-term or long-term goals with the truck series?
Honestly, like I think when I do those races, my biggest goal would be, you know, like finish the laps and really prepare for like a full season of trucks next year. And that's kind of my goal for that.
Nice. And I don't know if you know this, but I just happened to like come across that Marcus Lemonis is of Lebanese descent, and he's the guy that's over the truck, like the main sponsor, Camping World. He's the CEO.
Oh, really? Wait, I didn't
I'm like,
know that. Oh
you
my
need to
gosh.
go knocking on his door for some sponsorship.
Oh, yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that seems like a shoe-in. He was on Daniel Suarez's car this past week, so yeah, he's got to sponsor you at this
Got
point.
to.
Yeah.
Right? How could you not?
So one of the things that we see you posting a lot of is you've got a ton of merch, ton of apparel. You know, we're definitely fans and we want you to succeed. Where can people like us and other people supporting you go to find your merch and things like that?
Yeah, so I'm actually wearing my merch right now, which is like kind of embarrassing. I know it's not that cool to wear your own merch. I was like, whatever, I'll rep it. I like it. But I have a website that you can get all my merch at. It's ToniBreidinger.com, my name. So it's pretty easy. And same with all my social media. I'm pretty much on everything that you could think of. I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter, literally everything. And all you have to do is put in Toni Breidinger and I will be there.
Nice. We are not on TikTok, Bart.
We got to get on TikTok.
I know.
It's addicting. Even like my mom and like my dad, they just like start scrolling. They're like, I can't stop scrolling. I'm like, I know. It's crazy.
Well, at the beginning of quarantine, I was on TikTok, and all I did to get myself through quarantine is I made my wife, and I've got an 18-month-old, and I made her tape me and made them watch me attempt all the dances.
Yeah.
TikTok. But then I got tired and I just couldn't keep up with everybody, so had to give it up. So maybe we'll venture over to TikTok. You know, if racing wasn't in the picture, what are some of the things that you would be pursuing outside of the sport?
Let me think. Good question. Because I've known that I wanted to be a race car driver for so long. And like everything that I want to do now, like besides racing, kind of like still ties into racing. There was like a hot second where I wanted to be like a forensic like scientist detective type of person, which is like super random. I took a class in high school. I was like, hey, this is kind of cool. And it probably like lasted like just like a couple weeks, but I was like, hey, I'm gonna go do that. But yeah, it was just a phase.
And your sister, is she studying mechanical engineering? Is that right?
Yeah, she is.
Is she gonna circle back and like be like on your engine crew like later on?
I want her to be. She's gonna be working for General Motors. So I'm like, hey,
Oh, wow.
Heck yeah.
I'm like, I got you, girl. Let's do something. So we'll see.
Yeah,
Nice.
get yourself in a Chevy.
Right.
And what are some of the things that you enjoy doing outside of racing? Do you have any hobbies? We know you're a good racer. You mentioned not soccer, probably not some karate or anything. Is there anything that you're particularly good at?
I was actually just talking to one of my friends about this yesterday because she's like, "Do you have hobbies?" I was like, "No, I literally need more hobbies." And like, she came up with like a list, and I was like, "Okay, maybe I could like try drawing or like art or something like that." But you know, I like to be like outdoors, like go on hikes and just kind of like do stuff, like even like go for like a walk, like listen to music, all that kind of stuff. Especially like with COVID, I feel like kind of killed some things.
Yeah.
But yeah, just like being outdoors, and I kind of like things that I do, like if I'm not racing or like working or anything like that, to be like more chill and like laid back. So yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Well, that's all we have for you. We really appreciate you coming on and letting everybody who listens to us know a little bit more about you. And we'll definitely be rooting for you for the rest of the season, and appreciate you coming on.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys having me on here.
All right, Tony, we'll see you at the track hopefully at some point.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Tony.
Yeah.